Hello, welcome back to my channel, and today we're essentially having a look at the GeForce 4080. I hope the audio is fine because honestly my phone is dangling from a string from a ceiling, just to get the overview of this. So yeah, this is the brand new, not really, GeForce 4080 Super, and yeah, I managed to get my hands on it, so we're gonna go through the motions. Now I do have a little bit of text here. I don't know, guys, if you can see it, which essentially lists why the 4080 Super is better than Asus TUF 4070 Ti, because obviously this is a tough gaming, and you know, it's kind of easier to keep comparing the same lineup rather than getting something from MSI or Gigabyte or Zotac or anything else in between. So in terms of performance, this 4080 Super, it has got more streaming multiprocessors, which is good. It's got more shader units, that's good. We have more render output units, which is amazing for those who are doing content. We have plus 80 texture units, which is good for building the textures essentially and rendering those. And we have plus 20 ray tracing cores in comparison to the 4070, which only has 60. This one's got 80. Not a big improvement, but still. We also have higher floating point performance, so technically it should provide clear visual reference to whatever is going on in the gaming world. And we have a higher pixel rate, so shading and all that is going to be good as well. And we have 4 GB more video memory, so this is a 16 GB GPU in comparison to 12 GB of 4070 Ti. And we have 125 MHz faster memory clock speed, which honestly is kind of a bit ridiculous when you think about it, but oh well. And it does have wider memory bus width in comparison to 4070 Ti, because now it is rocking 256 bits versus 192 for 4070 Ti. But in comparison, the Asus TUF 3080 actually is running 384. So we're still not there yet. But overall, more memory clock speed, more bandwidth, more video VRAM, more RTX cores, better shading. Okay, fair enough, right? So let's open it up, see what's inside. I do like the box. The box does seem quite nice, and the box also does not want to come off easily, which is something I've noticed with Asus cards. They literally squeeze them in to never be taken out. Like this one is simply refusing point blank to come out, and there's nothing else it can possibly do. You know what? Let's just completely strip this open. I'm done being nice. This is a box. It has to go. Like literally, look. Look at this. Right. Okay. Here we are. So the box itself is actually quite nice, very rigid cardboard box. If you are into boxes, you will know what I mean. And even this box is not opening. What is it with this? Hey, yo! Oh, because it is like this. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's a very tight fit for the lid. So if it's standing on a table, kind of good luck. Anyhow, right, what's in a box? In a box we have the GPU. I wonder if it's gonna put some fight towards us as well. Let's take it away for a second. So we have some cable management stuff. We do have the adapter, which we will use. So this is to actually have 3 pins to the 1 pin that you actually need to get into your power supply, because 4070 Ti, for instance, only use 2 pin to 1. So this is required to have 3, and obviously, as you can see, the pins or the cables are relatively thick. Now I wouldn't say that they will not bend. They kinda will, but I don't know if this is gonna be good enough for your build in terms of aesthetics. Also, this little tiny pin is Yeah, it's down here, so it would be like this. I mean, we'll see. We'll have to hook this up anyway, so I'm just gonna leave it be. So we do have the GPU stand, which is kind of nice when it comes to it. Kind of cool, but you know, you can always put something else there, so to battle the GPU sag. So nothing really new in that. Anyway, that goes away as well. What else do we have? Where's my phone holder? I mean, not mine, but where's the person's phone holder? Probably it's in here. Regular Asus stuff with everything Asus. Probably a thank you card, quick setup guide. Ah, here's the phone holder. By the way, I don't know if you guys seen it, but the phone holder, the end result looks like this. It's kind of nice, you know, it's a nice touch. It's very easy to do. It takes only 7 hours if you're old. But outside of that, we have the Pokemon or Digimon card with the battle stats of your GPU. And that's it. No, obviously no driver disk, nothing like that, because long gone are the times. Right. I'm gonna open up this GPU in the background, so you don't have to see me dropping it down. And we are gonna compare it. And oh dear Lord, is it big. Right. I guess I missed the opportunity to say this is what she said, but boy. Okay, this is where the edges of the recording should be. And this is the 4070 Ti. Okay, so as you see, the 4080 is significantly bigger than 4070 Ti. I mean, price-wise as well when it comes to it, but I mean, in reality, this is quite mad. This is quite mad. Width-wise, does seem slightly bigger. Probably this is 1.5 slot card, I think, or was it 2.5, and this more 2.5 and 3. No idea, but in terms of how it looks exactly the same. The same cooling, the pin is in the same location, so if you're upgrading, no new cable management required. Some very weird tiny things here, almost like the manufacturing process of the PCBs. Kind of weird. It looks like it's been kind of drilled off a little bit too much, but anyhow. So yeah, big chunky boy, exactly the same as on a 4070 Ti. Same two type of connectors for the RGB and the fans. And honestly, this is, again, like, when it comes to these two GPUs, like, if you've got yourself a 4070 Ti, the last thing you should be doing is actually getting yourself a 4080 Super. Because even looking at the specs on paper, the difference is not exactly big enough to justify an upgrade for 4070 Ti to 4080. I would say if you would want to run this GPU or have this, it's only if you're building and upgrading for a very long time forward and you don't even have 4070. In that case, that would actually work, because in reality, the current price for this is about £1,120. And you can get it slightly cheaper or slightly more expensive depending on the version. This is just the regular version. This is not overclocked from the factory. It's just your TUF 4080 Super. The OC version costs a whopping £100 to £120 more, which I don't know if you want to pay it for 200 megahertz more. You know, would it actually make sense for yourself? But I don't know. I would say if you wanna. Yeah, if you want to upgrade to 4080 Super, I think you are probably either in the market of brand new build, or you're still sitting on like 1060 and you just think like, hey, I need to get this and this is going to be me absolutely sorted for next 4 to 5 years, which I believe you are, because VRAM wise already this is 16, but When it comes to price to performance, I'm pretty sure AMD will kind of get its claws on this price point, and specifically performance wise and VRAM amount, and you might want to think twice before you get this. Second of all, size of it requires a decent case. If you don't have a case that can fit this, boy do you have a problem, because I am actually now looking at this and I'm not sure if this is gonna fit in my case lengthwise, because my 4070 was pretty close to not having enough room, and this clearly is a good, it's a very good chunk longer than 4070, but we'll get to that. So yeah, what I'm more interested about it is the performance. Now obviously, as you know, I'm running an i5 96K running stock, so I'm going to be playing games on 4K. The reason for that is everything that's 4K will be using GPU more than is going to use the CPU, as I call it, the great equalizer between the CPUs. Now granted, there's only 6 cores, no hyperthreading, yada yada yada, fair enough. And also, we're gonna see if it makes sense to actually have an i5 96K and 4080 Super in 4K and what performance we're gonna get. So my current list for the games, I think that is most GPU demanding is actually Cyberpunk, because we're gonna crank everything up. And when you crank everything up in Cyberpunk, it becomes unplayable, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do that. Obviously no DLSS, no frame gen, nothing, just bare bones maxed out game. That's what we're gonna do. Then we're gonna go for Red Dead Redemption 2. Exactly the same thing. We're gonna go with the Vulkan API. No upscalers, no downsamplers. We're gonna look at that. Then we're gonna look at the OG Witcher, which runs perfectly fine, but just to see if there's any performance increase when we take this big chunky boy in. And then we're gonna probably have a look-see at Wildlands very quickly, because it's kind of like a personal quest for me now. But anyway, that's enough talking from my side. Let's take away the 4070. Let's stick this one in, do a clean driver install, and see where we go from there. So I'll see you on the benchmarks. So the first game in the list is Cyberpunk, and we're gonna crank this one out and see what happens. Now, a couple things, and I'm only gonna say this once every time for every new game we're gonna do with the 4070. We're going with the 4K. We're not gonna use NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency. That's turned off. We don't need any sub optimization happening in the background. Second of all, for the graphics, we're going with the highest preset with no resolution scaling, no frame gen if the game supports it, and definitely no DLSS. So everything that we can. In games that support ray tracing, we're gonna actually enable that, because the 4080 Super obviously has 20 more RTX cores, so in comparison to 4070, obviously, let's see if that makes a lick of difference when it comes to RTX performance. And we're not gonna use path tracing or path tracing in general, because honestly, even the high-end systems cannot really cut it unless you use frame gen or you go with DLSS or FSR, so that's gonna be off as well. Everything else is, as you see, everything is cranked up as much as we can. So let's roll the benchmark and see where we're gonna go with that, and then we're gonna walk around the district just to have the baseline. And the reason for these settings essentially is to give maximum load to the GPU rather than the CPU, because obviously 96K will be bottlenecked. Well, will bottleneck the stuff anyhow. And these are the actual results. So what do we see? The bar scene, obviously we're pulling 12 gigs of video memory. So the full VRAM of 4070 Ti is taken in these settings from Cyberpunk, and we're essentially 18 frames. So as you know that we've done all the tests with the previous GPUs, the 3060 and so on and so forth, 3070. The moment you enable DLSS and frame gen, like it's perfect. You can play with very high frame rate. I wouldn't want to say that, you know, you're going to be over exceeding 100, but end of the day, you know, with the resolution scaling, it's going to help you out a lot. But this is the actual performance on these settings, so give or take probably about 3 FPS for recording's sake. But yeah, CPU also is kind of pushing through. As you see, we're sitting on high 70s and 80s at the time, so It is not exactly as easy as you think, and this is the whole point. When you take away all the bells and whistles that give you higher frame rate, you can see the actual performance of the GPU. At least that's how I see it happening. So yeah, for 4K we're averaging at 20, so that's great. Anyhow, let's very quickly jump into the main game, because I know that in the main game we're getting more than 20 frames, but still, just for the comparison's sake. And then we obviously, the next part will be 4080 Super, and we're gonna see if there is any improvement at all when it comes to these particular settings, essentially, you know, just 4K, no DLSS, no frame gen, RTX cranked out. Because that's really what matters, you know, like everything else below 4K, that's down to the CPU. 4K is where it's the great CPU equalizer to a certain extent, specifically if you're running 6 cores, only like 96K. So yeah, okay, so we are here. And here we are with a 4080 Super, and yeah, well, a quick disclaimer, by the way. This is going to be in the outro as well. The 600 watt power supply is a no-go for this particular GPU, so I had to actually swap it out to a Corsair 750 watt to actually get the all 3 pins taken for the power supply for the GPU. So yeah, if you're rocking something like 600, I would say that's not gonna work. Mine was a 600 watt EVGA. That did not work at all, but oh well. Anyhow, let's have a look what we have here. So we're still on the same settings, ray tracing enabled, no DLSS, nothing like that, still on 4K, and as before we're just gonna run the benchmark for raw performance. With the 4070 Ti we got 20 frames on average, or well, actually we didn't really break it. So let's see if raw power of 4080 Super will actually do us any good. Obviously we do have more VRAM, so we have 16 gigs now, and slightly faster core clock speed than a memory clock speed. So I would expect, obviously, slightly better performance. You know, at least 10 frames I would want to say, but we'll see how it goes now. So starting off with the bar scene. So we are 6 frames more. Okay, fair enough. We're pulling 13 gigabytes of video memory allocated, 11 of RAM. Okay, so let's wait until all of this goes, and we're just gonna jump back in exactly where we left off. So yeah, average FPS is 27, so we do have 7 frame increase just for the raw performance of the game itself. So to be fair, it's kinda what I was expecting, give or take. But yeah, we are pulling more VRAM because we also have 16 gigs to play around with. So yeah, let's jump into the actual game itself. We should be in the same place we left off with all the eye candy and see how it feels and runs, but I would want to say we're probably going to be around the same mark. Maybe low 30s, you know, who knows. It's all down to various things. Now, granted, you might argue that CPU is bottlenecking, but at the same time, in 4K, the whole point is okay, Red Dead Redemption 2 with a 4070 Ti, and obviously let's go through the settings that we're going to be running here. I did actually adjust quite a few settings just to max everything absolutely out. So let's have a look-see. So we're going to be running with a 4K native, obviously. No vertical sync. Reflex low latency disabled. Triple buffering is disabled as well. I think this setting right here actually does more than it says on the tin. But I need to read a bit more about it because turning it off yields some interesting results. Anyhow, outside of that, we're going with a custom preset level because we can then crank out everything. As you can see, everything's on ultra, including anisotropic filtering, which I usually don't use, but hey, you know, just for the sake of argument. No DLSS, no FSR. TAA is on high because temporal anti-aliasing, in my opinion, is better than FXA. Depends on the game really, but it is how it is. No multi-sampling anti-aliasing. We don't need to over 4K the 4K, so let's leave it as it is. And we are running with a Vulkan API, obviously, because even though we could run with a DirectX, Vulkan still gives a better instruction set to the GPU. So if we want to utilize the full GPU, use Vulkan. Very simple, quick math. Everything on the Vulkan side is cranked up as well as per the preset, so that's essentially how it goes. So let's run the benchmark test and have a look-see. And honestly, I think this is gonna be a pretty interesting one because not only Red Dead Redemption is graphically demanding title, it is also very beautiful when it comes to graphics itself. So when you see these 4K 4090 videos when people are just cinematically walking or robbing a bank, I mean, it's like a movie, really, right? So again, you could adjust certain things to always have 60 and plus 60 frames, specifically with DLSS, even with 4070 Ti, even with an i5 96K. DLSS on balance, you're good, you're golden, you're above 60 on Ultra. But if you turn all of that off, no upscaling specifically, and the long shadows is one of the two things that definitely impacts us. let's have a look how much frames we gonna get, or how much the GPU can process, because I actually spent quite a few minutes trying to figure out every setting that I can possibly crank up just to give the GPU the highest amount of workout possible. So yeah, we're just gonna wait until this loading screen goes out. And the first scene, which is the snow cabin, is the most intense in all of the synthetic benchmark runs. Surprisingly enough, they managed to cram a lot of things in. Then again, I say it every time we run these benchmarks on Red Dead Redemption. So currently 7.5 gigs from 4070 Ti, and we're sub 60. Which is not surprising. This scene, it's not surprising at all. We're pulling already 14 gigs of RAM. So yeah, anyhow, I'm gonna shut up, because the next scenes you will see the frames and you will see how it is. And honestly, I am really curious. How will 4080 Super stack up against these numbers here? Because this is gonna be quite interesting in the long run. So yeah, let's just, you know, you can just enjoy the silence for the next 3 minutes. So there you go. Minimum frames 31, maximum 89, average 69. So, in all honesty, again, this is synthetic benchmark. I know that on average, you're not gonna get 69 frames in Red Dead Redemption with 4070 Ti and 4K, no DLSS. I just know it. So this is one of the reasons I do these videos where I run a synthetic benchmark and then we go into the actual game. Because otherwise, you know, I would just show you nice numbers and be like, oh yeah, it's all, you know, pretty Gucci, just buy everything. Use my affiliate link below. I mean, that's not why this channel exists. But yeah, let's have a look-see. So I actually put ourselves in the relatively scenic location here. As you can see, we are by the lake. And I think this is the... it's the third camp. I'm not even through the main story yet, so... But it's close to the water, and obviously when it comes to the water reflections, and you have anything else in regards to this, you kind of want to see the goodies. And yeah, water and water effects are rather taxing on the GPU when it comes to it. So what do we have? We're pulling 7 gigs of video memory allocated, 14, almost 15 gigs actually of physical RAM, and we're pretty much close to 60-ish frames, and this is with no DLSS. So at this point in time, I would want to say I'm kind of curious about the 4080, because I would literally write myself down knowing when you ride along and when you do, you are gonna dip around 52, 53, 55. It's just how it is, and it's not even like the game's engine's fault that I could point a finger to it and say it's because the game engine is unable to produce. It is able. This is literally just, you know, a little bit too taxing. A little bit too taxing. A little bit more oomph is required from the GPU if you want to run this. And yeah, again, this is no upscaling. I cannot stress this enough, because every time I see a benchmark where people say or show this game is ultra settings 4K and they're getting frame rate that I clearly can vouch it's with upscalers, and they go like, oh yeah, you know, it's but this is the GPU's performance. I mean, if you enable DLSS, let's be real, if you enable DLSS, if you enable FSR, it's pointless for you to start measuring GPU performance, because your performance already is essentially impacted, so to say. You're not getting the real baseline of, is it worth to upgrade? Because in that case, you know, if I turned on the DLSS in this game for ultra performance in 4K, everything cranked out, we would be way above 60 frames. We would be around 85-ish. And I know, because I was streaming this game while using DLSS and playing on 4K Ultra, and it was absolutely fine. So, yeah, miss me with that. Outside of that, clearly, as you can see, this game runs and looks beautifully. It's absolutely playable, even with slightly sub 60. So yeah, I would want to say, we might want to just kinda, you know, stick in the 4080 Super and use exactly the same settings, and see if we push past the 55 FPS that I've noted down, because 55 is big open water body and stuff like this, and even though we're currently at 70-ish, I know that moving fast will eventually get us sub 60. I just know it, like even here. Like even here, you can clearly see that, so yeah. Anyhow, let's have a look-see at the 4080. And here we are with the 4080 Super in Red Dead Redemption. Obviously I'm only saying this so I don't mix up which GPU and which run it is. And we're using exactly the same settings, 4K, just double checking, no vertical sync, no reflex, low latency, no triple buffering. And everything outside of that is still cranked up. Everything's on Ultra. Apart from particle, that's by the preset, I'm not gonna change that. TA high, all is good. So yeah, let's run a benchmark test, and what we have is, with a 4070 Ti, we were getting 69 average FPS in the synthetic benchmark, and roughly 55 to 59 in real game. So I am kinda hoping, I cannot wait to see the results, because on raw performance itself, the 4080 Super should actually achieve higher frame rate, just based on the memory bus bandwidth being actually higher than 4070 Ti. So 4070 Ti was, let me just pick up my paper here, 192 bits, and the 4080 is using 256. So I would want to say we're probably going to see a better performance overall for more demanding titles when it actually depends on the GPU power, and specifically in 4K. So yeah, let's see how this works out for us. Obviously the first episode with the snowy shack is gonna be, I don't think it's gonna be above 60, but hey, who knows? You know, let's keep positive here. And I don't think I'm gonna shut up now, because this is one of the games I always want to say, if you have a TV and you want to just immerse yourself, 4K above 60 frames would definitely be the way to go, specifically if you're just maxing the game out, really. But yeah, we'll see about that in pretty much, I would want to say, the next half a minute when it starts. And straight off the bat we're above 60 frames, so we're actually at 80-ish. Yeah, I think the average frames is gonna be way above 62, to be fair. So yeah, you know what? Let me just double down on what I just said. I'm gonna shut up until the benchmark run is finished when we're by the bridge, and we'll take it from there. Right, and average frame rate is 91, which is 22 frame uplift from 69 that we saw with the 4070 Ti. I mean, this is just, like, again, this just shows how different games are either taking advantage of your GPU or the more CPU bound. Because in comparison to Cyberpunk, like, if I was a Red Dead Redemption 2 player in and out, I would say this is definitely a pretty decent, you know, upgrade. But this is still just a synthetic benchmark, so let's jump into the actual game, where we were getting about 55 to 59, and look at this. Just look at this, guys. 100 frames. You just cannot make this stuff up. We're pulling 7 gigs of allocated video memory, 13, almost 14 of RAM. And we're no longer at 55 to 59 frames, slightly 60. We're actually pushing 100 right now. And the game looks absolutely stunning. Like, this is what I'm talking about, like. Let's run through a little bit of foliage here. The volumetric fog is there, all is... I mean, come on guys, this is perfect. So yeah, let's make our way back to the camp just a little bit, just to appreciate how it all looks here. So and if you notice, like, the CPU usage is actually way higher now, and I think that is attributing to the memory bandwidth bus. That means that more data can be pushed through, and obviously the CPU can open up a slightly bit more. Now then again, I would want to say we're kind of about to hit the ceiling, because we are currently recording in 4K native as well while playing the game, so obviously the CPU needs to kind of try to deal with all the processors at any given time, but still, I mean, this would be literally the performance you would get if you were playing the game and streaming at the same time, give or take, specifically with using the new...
Oh my good lord.
Well, I guess that was unnecessary, but hey, I haven't played this game in a while, so... But yeah, clearly, we're literally good 30 frames above this, I would want to say, actually. Yeah, it's 55, 60, and we're not dropping, we're not even near 60 at all, so... Yeah, that's Red Dead Redemption. Let's move on to the next title. And here we are in Witcher 3 with the Wild Hunt with the 4070 Ti. And yes, I know this is not the remastered version of The Witcher, and the reason is very simple. It is pretty broken, in my opinion, to be in all honesty. I did actually downgrade the version from the remade because it would just not play ball. Like, nothing would work. You toggle DLSS, you toggle RTX. I just it was limping along literally at like 35 frames. And it was limping along at 35 frames despite any settings used. So yeah, I just gave up on that. If you want to take it for a spin, I would want to say, no, go ahead. But currently I'm just running with the good old Witcher because, hey, this still looks, in my opinion, better than the remade. So we're going with vertical sync off, obviously 4K native full screen, including NVIDIA Hairworks, which I know will take your frames away from you, but hey, it is how it is. Everything else is on Ultra, so outside of missing out on Ultra Plus and RTX, this is pretty much the Witcher we all deserve. So, I already know how many frames we're gonna get. I was able to max this game out with a 1080 Ti. So in all honesty, you know, the moment you're above 2000 series, you're good. You're absolutely golden, like, literally. So yeah, GPU usage 99%, we're pulling 4.4 gigabytes of video memory. and we're way above 60 frames in 4K. So in all honesty, like this is the reality. I would want to say, even with the 4070 Ti Witcher in 4K, the OG Witcher runs absolutely fine. And yeah, I don't see the point of even running this like a benchmark for longer, because technically we could go to the Novigrad if you really want me to. But in all fairness, even when I was in Novigrad, and since you downgrade the game, you cannot use the save file from the newer game, so to say, you're gonna be getting around 70-ish frames in Novigrad, and that depends how many people you have actually put in, like the crowd density. That matters much more than wherever the crowd density was at. That's gonna matter for your CPU more than the GPU actually. So since 96K 6 cores, well, crowd density kills it pretty significantly. But yeah, in terms of graphical performance, I mean, I'm sorry, it's all absolutely fine. Also, I should kind of get Roach and go there, but it's gonna be fine. You can just run with Vesemir for a couple minutes. Maybe take a detour through the bushes, through the foliage a bit. But yeah, I mean, I honestly do not believe that you need to spend a lot of money to play Witcher in 4K and not get 60 frames. Like you definitely will. So yeah, anyhow, let's have a look-see at 4080. See if it passes the mark of Holy 90 actually. And here we are back in a Witcher with the 4080 Super, and let's just double check we're still rocking the same thing. So vertical sync off, unlimited frames, resolution 4K, full screen, hair work. Right, and here we are with the 4070 Ti and good old Wildlands. Now, I would not say Wildlands is the most graphically intensive game out there, but I'm kind of on a personal quest to see which GPU finally breaks the 60 FPS hard ceiling at any given time, which I believe is more CPU, well, GPU bound than anything else. So we're going with the 4K, resolution scaling as one time or 100%, so to say. No vertical sync. And that's pretty much all there is. When it comes to the graphics side, we're going with the Ultra preset. So everything is enabled as high as we can, apart from Ironside's depth of field. I mean, do yourself a favor, don't use that. And yeah, everything else is there. Now, when it comes to Wildlands, I must say, it is a weird one. I've seen a lot of different benchmarks of a lot of different systems trying to push this game, and actually it has come to the point where Breakpoint actually runs better than Wildlands, which is something I would never usually say, but it's just the facts. Like, Breakpoint with 4070 Ti will run above 60 frames at all times in 4K maxed out. As you can see on the screen right now, Wildlands is not. So I know the game is not limited to 60 frames. I know it's not capped, but it's just a little bit funny. So yeah, we're pulling 8 gigs of video memory allocated, 10 gigs of RAM, and which we're still not seeing constant 60 plus. Now, you might say that this is CPU related, you know, 1% lows and whatnot, but good luck finding a not overclocked system that actually runs 4K Ultra in Wildlands always above 60. if you do, let me know. Let me know. So yeah, 4070 Ti here. Technically the average is 61. I guess we're technically there, but obviously we're technically also not there. So it's just how it is. You know, it's just one of those things, really. This game is from 2017. Like, it should just run. It should just work. Then again, this is a Ubisoft title, so hey ho. The only Ubisoft title from all of the titles we've gone through, and yeah, I mean, I guess it's just a nostalgia thing, really. And this loading stuff just gets longer and longer. I was pretty sure I'm actually somewhere else. So yeah, pulling 9.2 gigs in this particular instance, 10 gigs of RAM and 60-ish frames, and the moment we actually cut through the jungle, boom, we're going down. Oh well. Oh well. I honestly think there is something
Maybe we should keep the guns down, make sure we don't
in regards to GPU here rather than the CPU when it comes to this engine. But I might be completely wrong. Then again, we do have 4080, so hey, might as well see if something changes. I mean, I honestly don't believe that there will be any changes if a 4070 Ti is unable to get 60 frames on this. I mean, we technically are getting 60 frames, okay? But the moment stuff goes down, there's gonna be less than 60 frames. It's just I know it. And yeah, I'm just a little bit curious about this, in all honesty. Well, the squad is trying to keep up. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Kinda there. Kinda close to 60, but still no dice, you know? Even though the Wildlands, as usual, looks absolutely fantastic.
Frag out.
I don't know if you could see this little kinda a shockwave around the grenade. Let's see if you can see it a
Frag
bit more
out.
better
Get
here.
some.
Heads up, hostile
Additional
presence.
turf effect when you crank the game out.
Clear.
So yeah. Anyhow, I'm getting sidetracked. The moment I see Wildlands, I'm getting sidetracked. So yeah, let's stop for 4080. And here we are with the 4080 Super in Wildlands. And well, honestly, if this GPU is unable to get above 60, I give up. So we're going still double checking full screen 4K, resolution scaling at 1, no vertical sync, no frame rate limit, and graphically we're going with the Ultra preset, which is, yeah, minus the iron sights, depth of field. Everything else is cranked up. So let's run the benchmark and see what is gonna happen. So as you saw during the 4070 run, it was pretty much sub 60-ish, about 55, 54, 58. And during the actual gameplay about 62-ish, slightly above. So we'll see how it works now with this GPU. And well, paint me impressed. We're actually at 75 frames. Oh my god, my bucket list is complete. Oh wow, okay. Okay, you know, this is a clear winner then. So at least, you know, if you're playing Red Dead Redemption, Witcher and Wildlands, obviously this automatically goes for breakpoint players as well. Obviously, ready or not, ground branch, everything like that. This GPU in 4K will elevate your gaming experience in comparison to 4070 Ti. But then again, in reality, if majority of these games you will want to have stable frame rate. So in general, I would say resolution scaling is your first and best friend when it comes to it, but it's kind of nice to see that Wildlands is finally able to be pushed naturally above its 60 frame comfort zone with the 4080 Super. So as you can see, absolutely fantastic result here. So yeah, let's go and jump into the actual game itself, see where we end up there, and I kind of assume we're actually going to be in a pretty good place as well. But hey, we just need to make sure that we're doing it, because you know it's free performance. Well, I wouldn't say free performance. It's about 1,200 pounds worth of performance you just gained, which translates to roughly 10 to 15 to 20 frames in all honesty. And then again, you do need a power supply that's able to supply and stuff like this. So I don't know how I feel about that in all reality, but like even now you can see the CPU is just going wild here. The GPU is 98%. We're pulling 9 gigs of video memory, which obviously the game's recommended GPU back in the day was GTX 970, so we're talking 3.5 to 4 gigabytes of VRAM, depends how you look at it. And now we're pulling pretty much 9 at the moment. But we are natively above 60 frames. But the CPU is getting work out for its money, to be fair, so it is how it is, I got to admit.
Check your targets. We got civilians all over the place. Round just missed him. He's looking for the source. They're coming this way. Take cover. Hold on, man. I'll be right there.
Actually, I forgot that I need to pay attention to the game, but hey ho. Yeah, we are way above 60 frames. And that's on resolution scaling at 100%, which is
I'm opening fire on
these shitheads.
Looks like we need that guy. Fucking yeah.
Exactly where you want to be.
Avisamos que los repuestos ya vienen en camino. Únanse a ellas y destruyan al enemigo.
Actually feels good.
Algunas unidades. Un grupo armado hostil y desconocido.
It definitely feels good.
Tropas de apoyo para terminar con la amenaza.
But yeah, then again, CPU is doing heavy lifting at 94 and above percentage, so yeah. Anyway, I think we're gonna talk. Right, so here we are back from all the testing and stuff, and I guess this is just time for an outro and just talk about things. So this is the page I pulled the data from to compare, and obviously it's kind of nice. You can just select the GPUs and kind of gives you the official standing data points essentially, so you can actually make a relatively informed decision. And in general, obviously yes, 4080 Super is faster and technically better than 4070 Ti. Obviously that's, you know, one of the reasons it's been released, to be fair. And as you can see, so the blue line is 4070 Ti and the red one is 4080 Super. So clearly yes, you do have certain things where it kind of falls short. For instance, GPU clock speed is slightly less, the GPU turbo slightly less, at the same time the pixel rate is, well, more. Floating point texture, GPU memory speed and stuff like this. In general, I would want to say, you know, like, as I stated previously, if you're looking for a brand new build or you're going to upgrade from a pretty old system, you know, if you're sitting on something like 3060, 3070, yes, you will see performance boost. If you're still sitting on 3080 Ti, if you're sitting on 4060, 4070, 4070 Ti, you really need to think about the bottom end of your PC, which is the CPU and power supply, before even making this choice, because the 4070 Ti does use only two cable connection from the PSU to the GPU, so I was able to actually run everything up until 4070 Ti with my 600 watt EVGA power supply. But I did try to power the 4080 Super with it, and the lights came on and no one's home essentially, so I had to swap it out for a power supply I had, which is a Corsair 750 watt, and it did have the additional PCI cables for power delivery, and I was able to make it work because, well, essentially there was not enough juice going for the GPU, which is slightly weird because 4080 Super technically requires less wattage than a 3080 Ti, which is overclocked, about 20 watts less. So, you know, it's, there you have it. You literally need to kind of understand that. Second of all, the size. So this is the case that I currently have, which is a Corsair Carbide Series T200. And right here where you see this hard drive tray, so you can actually stack in the hard drives here. I have about 2 of them here, and one of the SSDs is here. I had to take this out to slot the GPU in because it would literally hit exactly the upper part where the SSDs are supposed to go in. There's like a place for 4 of them or 2, I don't know, it didn't look. All this space, right up until the hard drive bay where it goes down. All this is the 4080 Super. 4070 Ti ends roughly at the edge here. Like, it's not touching it. It's very close, but it's not touching it. 4080 Super, it goes all the way. And this is literally, you kind of need to measure the case to see if it's actually gonna fit, at least lengthwise. Widthwise, this case has enough space in it to be actually pretty spacious inside. But yeah, that was one of the things. So number one, power supply needs to be up to spec, and your case needs to be up to spec as well. in terms of general performance of the games, even though I'm running i5 96K, we did see pretty significant uplift, well, significant at least for myself, when it comes to the frames. So Cyberpunk, obviously there was 7 frame increase, give or take, playing with native 4K, no DLSS, no frame gen. Kind of expected when you turn ray tracing all to psycho and you crank every setting to the max. So yeah, I'm not even gonna look at it because honestly I'm yet to see a GPU or a system that can just play Cyberpunk absolutely cranked out, no FG, no FSR, no DLSS, and have 60 plus frames in 4K Ultra. I mean, I'm still waiting for that day. I might actually go and Google it. Maybe someone made it. For Red Dead Redemption, we did get up to 30 frame increase in 4K native, which is actually absolutely magical when you think about it. For Witcher 3, which is the OG version, we actually also saw around 20 to 25 frames increase, so it's not bad. We were not in a bad spot to begin with. We were at low 90s, and then we actually started getting 110s and, kind of sometimes depending on the CPU, because CPU was bottoming out, and that's the whole issue here when it comes to the i5 96K. So the 6 cores are pushing the 4080, but well, even in 4K, the CPU at this point for this GPU is simply not enough, and that's just it's just the reality of it. So if you're taking 4080 to play on 2K, I would want to say the lower resolution you go below 4K, the bigger the bottleneck is gonna be, and it's just the reality of things. It's not to take a stab at Intel users, because I'm an Intel user, but it's just you have to kind of wait out your options. What's your current setup, and will it actually utilize the 4080 to its full potential? For Wildlands, the record was finally broken, at least for myself, like a little personal milestone. So we went from 60-ish all the way to 74 and above, so that's again 15 to 20 frame increase. And Wildlands, as a Ubisoft creation, obviously is kind of picky when it comes to performance and utilizing the hardware. Nothing really worked for that game, like, the NVMe drive, the 32 gigs of RAM, better CPU, better GPUs. It's always kind of was hovering. It's, you can almost reach constant 60 in that game in 4K Ultra, and still something was just simply not there. So yeah, overall I would want to say yes, it is slightly faster card, and no, I don't think, unless you have a very good reason to go and get this card, unless you're upgrading for the next couple of years, because obviously there's rumors that the 5000 series is coming out very soon, just in time to push out AMD out of its way, which obviously AMD is going to push them out of the way, as it usually happens in the last couple of years. So do you need to jump on a bandwagon for 4080 Super? Honestly, no. I mean, I cannot justify having that GPU unless you're not an AMD fan. You don't want to consider any other option outside of Nvidia, which is obviously your own personal opinion. You have rights to it. But currently, price-wise, I don't know. It's pretty costly. Like, in this website, it shows that the 4070 Ti is 919 and 4080 Super comes at 981. Now, this is a US Amazon, and in UK we don't get the US, because if we go to the US website we need to pay import, and import will actually be additional money, and obviously that goes above the grand anyway. And you can get it here for about $1,50, $1,60 from PC Curries, or if you're going for OC version, slightly more or slightly less, depends if you go from overclockers or wherever else. So yeah, but I think the main idea is, if you have an i5 96K, probably the 4080 Super is not a good idea. Like, you might get that GPU only and only if you're putting money aside to actually upgrade your whole rig, because it might give you a little bit of headroom for a couple of years. But if any other new game comes out, I think you're gonna be in some serious trouble. And there's nothing worse than having a GPU for $1,000 in your system and you're barely pushing like 60-70 frames. And also that is a requirement if you're playing on 4K. So if you don't have a 4K monitor, you're not playing on a 4K TV. That means you're going to be using DSR, and if you're using DSR, that's essentially fake resolution, so it's just artificial load on a GPU. Because if your monitor only supports or displays 2K resolution, you're not gonna have more pixels in the same space. The amount of pixels doesn't change. So I don't know. I wouldn't say it was a nice test. I did enjoy it. Kind of cool to see that these GPUs are out and about. The person who's gonna use it for the future, obviously his rig is way more sophisticated than mine, and there's no surprise for it. But yeah, I don't know. Leave your comments down below what you think about all this, and yeah, I guess that's pretty much all there is. Fun little experiment, as they would say. Anyhow, that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Over and out.